All right, so let's start this broadcast with the latest that has in fact come in from Ukraine, where the Ukrainian army reportedly has repulsed a major Russian attack on the main Kievan avenue. This is, of course, day 3 of the Russian invasion into Ukraine, and the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has urged all citizens in Kyiv to brace for the Russian assault. Witnesses reportedly heard artillery rounds and intense gunfire in the western part of Kyiv all through the Friday night. So this is the latest information that is coming out of Ukraine, where, remember, this is the third straight night of airstrikes and shellings that have been reported on Kyiv. And according to the information that has come in, the Ukrainian authorities claim that they've managed to a very large extent, repulse the Russian forces who have surrounded the Ukrainian capital in Kyiv. Remember, these are claims that have been made by some of the Ukrainian officials, and more information, of course, is awaited in terms of what's been happening in the fighting that's been raging on the borders of Kyiv. All right, and also to now give us more insights in terms of how this conflict is playing out, we're joined in by Nicole Brenner-Schmitz, who's a political consultant, who's joining us live from Washington, D.C. Nicole, thank you very much indeed for joining us in this broadcast and beyond. And let me begin by asking you in terms of what's happened at the UNSC vote a little while back, where Russia, as expected, has vetoed the draft resolution. The United States has been trying to isolate Russia in the aftermath of this invasion into Ukraine. But is the United States succeeding in politically isolating Russia?
Well, the United States has put a lot of sanctions onto Russia. We are certainly leaning into supporting the Ukrainian people. There is a lot of support here from the U.S. In their military endeavor. There is more support headed their way, which was announced. And certainly it seemed that this attack, this unprecedented invasion that is an attack on democracy, is not just an attack on democracy in Ukraine, but is an attack on democracy across the world.
And also at this point of time, considering the manner in which Russia has gone about systematically in its invasion, this was not something that happened out of the blue. The West was prepared for it. Can we expect the United States and the NATO military alliance to in fact provide material support for the people in Ukraine to put up greater resistance against the Russian forces?
Well, certainly the U.S. has been sending support. Right now, President Biden has still said that he's not putting troops on the ground. He's been pretty clear about that. But there is a lot of pressure from a lot of politicians in the United States to put every sanction possible on Russia, that this needs to be stopped. You're seeing a political debate happening in the United States amongst different politicians. It's very interesting. A party that identifies itself as Reagan's party is seemingly siding with Russia in some ways. It's distressing, but the administration is not. They are supporting Ukraine. You saw even applause at the UN Security Council for the Ukrainian representatives' call for a moment of silence. The United States is leaning in and lending its support, and there are many in Congress calling for even more sanctions onto Russia.
Thank you very much indeed, Ms. Brenner-Schmitz, for joining us and getting us all those insights. This, of course, is really a difficult time in Ukraine, and despite the best efforts that the West has tried to put forth, the invasion in Ukraine has happened and it continues. Meanwhile, these are some of the scenes that are unfolding inside of Ukraine. And we also witnessed a lot of people who are, of course, trying to flee from Kyiv. Remember, women, children and the elderly have, of course, been in many of these areas relocated to safer locations. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.